Hi, Scary Recaps here. Today, I'm going to explain the movie The Ward from 2010. Beware of spoilers. The film begins at North Bend Psychiatric Hospital. A patient named Tammy is startled and then killed by a mysterious presence in her room. In rural Oregon, 1966, a young woman who seems to hide from the police runs through the woods and arrives at a deserted farmhouse, which she sets on fire. Standing there, the police officers come and arrest her. The woman's name is Kristen, and she is soon taken to the North Bend Psychiatric Hospital. There, she is washed and dressed and admitted to the ward. The nurses take Kristen to Tammy's room. During the night, an unseen hand drags the blanket from Kristen and puts it under the bed. Kristen, feeling cold, wakes up, and as she retrieves the blanket, she discovers a bracelet with 5 letters on it. In the morning, Dr. Stringer comes to evaluate Kristen's state. She is offered pills, which she throws to the ground. Afterwards, Kristen gets acquainted with the rest of the patients: Emily, Iris, Sarah, and Zoe. Later on, Kristen is summoned to Dr. Stringer's office to answer some questions. Kristen can't remember why she burnt the farmhouse and refuses the fact that she is crazy. She manages to secretly take a knife from Dr. Stringer's office and, in the night, unlocks the door to her room. Kristen then tries to escape, but she fails and ends up back in her room, confined and frustrated. A girl then seems to watch over Kristen. For good or worse, she can't tell. In the morning, Kristen sits with the rest of the patients and agrees to be drawn by Iris. Later that night, as the girls are dancing and having fun, the lights go out and something seems to stalk them in the dark. Kristen snoops around, searching for a way out. As she is taking a shower, a grotesque figure grabs her by the throat and Kristen collapses in fear. The nurse injects her with a sedative and Kristen is transported to a room and submitted to electroshock therapy. The next day, Emily wakes up Kristen and takes her to the dining hall for breakfast. During the group therapy, Kristen learns about Tammy, the previous owner of her room. Emily tries to comfort Kristen, and Iris comes to notify the girls that she is being released. Dr. Stringer shows Iris some of her drawings and decides to run one last test to see if Iris is fit for release. He hypnotizes her, and Iris recounts some of her past memories and falls asleep. When Iris wakes up, she is seen on a wheelchair, taken by the grotesque figure to a secret room. In there, the hideous presence kills Iris by sticking a long probe into her eye and through her brain. Emily is worried about Iris. Flashes of an imprisoned girl keep popping up. In the morning, Kristen searches for Iris and grows suspicious by her absence. Kristen finds Iris's sketchbook and looks at a drawing of a girl named Alice, and also one of the hideous patient under the name of Alice Hudson. Kristen questions Dr. Stringer about the strange incidents and tells him that there is a ghost in the ward. Kristen asks the other patients who Alice was and learns that she was an old patient. Zoe tells Kristen that Alice won't let them leave, but Kristen is determined to escape. She forms a plan with Emily, and when night falls, she and Emily access the ventilation shaft through the toilet. But Nurse Lunt discovers Kristen's escape and soon sounds the alarm. Meanwhile, the 2 girls get out of the ward and get into the morgue, where they get separated. Kristen is spooked by a presence in one of the fridges and runs away. She manages to reach the exit of the hospital, but she hears a girl's voice uttering the word Alice. Kristen lingers, and before she can escape, the hideous creature appears suddenly in front of her, and Kristen falls to the floor. Before she loses consciousness, Roy, the chief orderly at the ward, grabs Kristen and takes her back to her room. In the morning, it is Sarah's turn to be released. She tries to fix a date with Roy, but he refuses. Sarah then rebukes Emily and Zoe, and soon after, she is hunted by the spectre of Alice Hudson. Sarah locks herself into a room, but she is captured and knocked out. When she wakes up, she is in the same horrible room Iris had died in. Alice kills Sarah by electrocuting her. At this point, Kristen discovers that Sarah is missing, and Zoe is forced to tell her the truth about Alice Hudson, who, as an inmate, was killed by the rest of the girls due to her cruel behavior. Zoe's stuffed animal belonged to Alice, and so did the bracelet Kristen found earlier. Not standing to be haunted like this, Emily decides to slice her wrist, but Alice appears and cuts Emily's neck, killing her. Kristen formulates a plan to get out and save Zoe. She pretends to hold her under the threat of a knife and tries to leave the ward, but she is stopped by Roy once again. Nurse Lunt sedates Kristen and puts her in a straitjacket. Back to her room, Kristen is successful in breaking free from the straitjacket and leaving her room. She takes Zoe with her again, and together they try to escape the ward. The two girls manage to get away from the pursuing nurses and enter a room. Zoe is sent upwards through a dumbwaiter, but Alice appears behind her, and it is implied that Zoe doesn't make it. Soon, Kristen enters the dumbwaiter and goes up. When she enters the room, she sees a trail of blood and realizes the fate of Zoe. Suddenly, Alice attacks Kristen, and they fight. Kristen manages to stab Alice in the chest with an axe and runs away. Kristen goes to Dr. Stringer's office and looks at the other patient's files. Dr. Stringer comes in then, and Kristen lashes out, holding a piece of broken glass to his neck. Dr. Stringer is forced to tell her the truth. As it is, Kristen's real name is Alice Lee Hudson. When she was 11 years old, she was kidnapped and held hostage at a farmhouse. The same farmhouse she burnt to the ground at the start of the film. Due to the trauma, she has suffered from multiple personalities ever since. Kristen, Iris, Emily, Zoe, and Sarah were all different personalities of Alice Hudson, who apparently was lost in the maze of her own mind. Dr. Stringer says to Alice that he has tried many things to cure her, all of which led to the grotesque form that was eliminating the other personalities one after another. The appearance of Kristen complicated things, acting as a safety to the other personalities in order for Alice to avoid facing her trauma during her captivity. As Kristen tries to comprehend this, the hideous form of Alice appears again, and they fight and fall out the window. Dr. Stringer rushes to her, and a little while later, Alice wakes up in her bed in the psychiatric hospital. Alice's parents are there, and Dr. Stringer tells them that he has made great progress in the treatment. He says that Alice can be discharged now, feeling more like herself, although there is still a long way to go to reach a cure. Alice tells Dr. Stringer that she remembers everything, the various personalities, even Kristen. As Alice packs up her things to leave the hospital, she goes to the sink. She opens the medicine closet, and suddenly, Kristen pounces on her.